I'm going to cover several things in this video. I'm going to start off with those eclipse shots that I shot, what, four or six of them? But anyway, I put two here on YouTube that I shot on my phone. I put two that I shot on my phone on TikTok. And there's two more I shot on my camera. I'm going to post those here on YouTube later when I get to my favorite Wi-Fi spot. Mostly I download that, but I do upload there too because it is still pretty fast for uploads. But anyway, I'd post those later. My camera, you can see the eclipse a little bit better. I wasn't sure how my camera stacked up against my cell phone, the camera on my cell phone, but I do seem to have a little bit better optics on my camera. The camera is what I got for around $100, so it's not a super expensive one. I didn't want to spend a lot on this YouTube thing. I got it maybe about 3 years ago. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on a camera for something that YouTube really wasn't going to take off. Now, if I get monetized, I'll probably keep the camera for a while, and then when I can afford it, probably buy a better camera. But anyway, okay. The next I'm going to post those later. Next thing I'm going to cover now. There's quite a number of the single female YouTube content creators. One of my follow is Michelle. Her YouTube channel is Miles to Myself. Hey, go watch her channel. She's got a smaller channel. It started off a little bit smaller than mine, and she's got a few more viewers than I do right now. So that she's taken off. But go watch her channel. One thing, she's planning a trip back to I think she's from New York. She was in Quartzsite for a while, and I suggested a handful of the YouTube content creators that she made contact with, and she did. Now, I don't know why that Michelle hasn't referenced me in some of her videos because I've referenced her. I would appreciate people, even if they got a smaller channel, referencing me. There's one guy that did, so I appreciate that. And I'm still trying to remember his name. I'm gonna get to him in a couple minutes too here. But now, if some of the single female content creators, like if they're going cross country and slightly worried about mechanical problems, if they had a gearhead boyfriend with them, they would be less worried about mechanical problems. Of course, I've watched a handful of the YouTube, the guys doing there's a couple of the ladies doing the automotive channels too, and I watch those. Like Sarah Intune has an automotive channel, but she doesn't do the cross country stuff. Well, like there's like Vice Grip Garage. I think his name is Derek. But anyway, he'll find a vehicle that's throughout the U.S. I think he did one in Canada too. But throughout the U.S. he'll find something that's been sitting for between maybe 10 and 40 years, something like that. He'll wrench on it, get it to where he'll get it operational, and then drive back. And on some of the trips, he'll break down on the side of the road. Sometimes it's just a tire that's come apart. Sometimes it's just something more serious mechanical. There's been about 3 of these that I watched that the problem was so severe that he just couldn't. He just had to leave it sitting there. Then have some friends of his, trailer at home. There was one that he didn't give it to him, but he had a shop keep it there for him. Yeah, there were friends of his because he's got friends across the country. But I'm just saying, even knowing what you're doing doesn't guarantee that you can get something going right away. Sometimes it takes a little bit more time. So have a gearhead boyfriend. It's not 100% guarantee on anything, and you might be hitchhiking or getting an Uber or something to go get parts and then get going again. That you don't always fix stuff on the get a battery or a starter or tires or something. You got to go get them. You kind of see why I'm going here with this. So just having a gearhead boyfriend doesn't always guarantee anything. But if it's something simple, like a loose wire here or there, battery terminal, maybe if the headlights don't come on, you got a bad ground wire. Simple stuff you can take care of on the side of the road. And I've done that plenty of times. Dealt with stuff. On the side of the road to get going again, and then get home and fix it. Now I've got an oil leak on my pickup that I'm going to kind of nurse along for a couple of weeks so I can get some equipment set up, and then I probably have to if it is the rear main crankshaft seal, like I suspect. I've got to pull the engine out, flip it over, pull the pan off, pull the rear cap off, probably pull the flex plate off, and then do the seal. It's easy once you get down to it, but it's a pain in the ass to pull the engine out and to get down to it. I don't think I've ever pulled an engine out just to do the seal. Now I've rebuilt engines where, yeah, if you rebuild an engine, the front and the rear sealers, you definitely something you do. But I don't think I've had one leaking like that. I don't think I've had an engine. Of course, I've had plenty of them that had plenty of miles on them that were burning or dripping oil. I've had plenty of them like that, dripping from different. But they weren't quite as bad. I was able to just nurse them along for a long time, and then go through the engine. Let's see what else. I'm going to cover my dream I had last night. Now I don't believe, but I've listened to any of the any audio from YouTube because I'll periodically have particular program, particular audio or video from YouTube playing as I sleep, and those dreams I discount. The same thing, back in the days when Art Bell was on Coast to Coast, and I listened to Coast to Coast overnight. And Art Bell always, I think George Norris had the same thing. That I listened to George Norris for a few months, and then he got sick and tired of him. But anyway, when I was listening to Coast, he would say, "Hey, we give people strange dreams," because they knew that people were listening to it and falling asleep in the program. But anyway, in this particular dream, I don't believe I had any other outside audio on. But anyway, it seems I was working on this big electrical panel. Now, it reminded me of a CT cabinet. Let me switch hands here because the hands getting tired. Okay, but anyway, this reminded me of a service entry panel. Where you got the main meter. This is the size of a CT cabinet. If those big ones that sit behind the business, they got the meter and the breaker panels like that. But this particular panel had some contactors, some magnetic starters, a number of other pieces of equipment that I could, in the dream, I recognized off the top of my head. Right now, I'm not sure quite what they were, and most of it was de-energized. Most of it, there's no power on it. I was working on that first, and then there was one particular wire that still had the power on it. It was still energized, and I had to do that with hot. For some reason, I couldn't de-energize that. I don't remember why. It was kind of bugging me that I don't know if it's 240 or 480. Now, if that were 480, I would never do anything like that. I would never do a 480 volt circuit energized because the potential for, let's say 480 is very, very unforgiving to making mistakes with it. I've worked with, not a lot, but I have worked with 480 a little bit. And you're very, very careful when you're working with anything over 240. I work with 480, but I'm very, very careful with it. I've never worked with anything higher than that, other than back in the days when the tube type TVs had the high voltage circuit for the picture tube. I don't remember what it was, but like 15 or 30,000 volts, something like that. But those, if you turn the set off, and then you went in there's a couple of capacitors you can go in there and short out before before you work on something, just make sure everything powers off on it. And then the CRT, the big picture tube, is if you ground that wire that goes over the picture tube, just make sure you ground that. That's the only thing I've worked on higher than 480. But that's been years since I worked on a CRT type TV. I was a kid when those were popular. But I just remember working, in this dream. I'm guessing it's just from working on equipment energized periodically. One thing I've said that if you don't work on something with the power on it, not all the time, but you lose your respect for electricity. At least that's for me. You got to be something like that. You're working on something energized. You got to be careful with it. And I certainly don't advise that to anybody if you don't know what you're doing. If you don't have the technical skills, if you're not, or if you're stupid or a moron, don't work on energized equipment if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, ciao.